Hello, advanced social psychology students. So the purpose of this short video is to present or to lead the discussion of the Whitcower, Kang, Bucci, McLean, and Tracy 2025 article. And I hope you're all enjoying your spring break, but we'll have a couple days to talk about this after spring break is over as part of our, I believe it's week 9. Yes, as part of week 9. So this article was published in November of 2025, so just about 4 months ago. So it's hot off the press. So let's see, several of you read it and wrote your summaries about it. I think it's cute's probably the wrong word, but I like this article. I just shortened the title to Physical Touch with a Breathing Robot. And let's get to it. Why isn't this going down? Okay. Maybe this will work. Okay. So the issue or the problem that the authors are addressing at the beginning is that when we're afraid, we cling to or touch other people. Why? Well, touching others can help us to downregulate our negative emotions, leading us to feel less fear, less arousal. So it helps us to regulate our emotions. However, touching another person who is highly aroused could potentially lead to more fear, more arousal through what's called emotion contagion. So emotion contagion is this idea that the emotions that other people are feeling can be contagious, so to speak. And so we'll all take on the emotions of the other people around us. And I think I've talked in one of the other lecture videos about, have you ever walked into a room and someone's in a really, really bad, angry mood? And suddenly, like, you sort of feel like you kind of feel icky too. So that's emotion contagion. So it could be that when we're afraid, if we end up touching or clinging to someone who's even more afraid than we are, rather than decreasing our fear or arousal, it could actually increase it. So the authors say how very few studies have used the breathing of another to indicate fear or arousal, and that hardly any studies have done this using robots rather than humans. So the big questions that these authors ask are, first of all, can a human detect and recognize fear by touching a robot that's hyperventilating? So if the chest movements of the robot is very quickly going up, in and out, almost seeming like the robot is hyperventilating, do then humans who see the robot doing that say, oh, the robot seems to be afraid? Can we recognize emotions in robots? And clearly they're not feeling emotions, but can we recognize that? And can touching this hyperventilating robot increase our own physiological arousal? So what would happen? So what they did is they had participants hold this furry robot. And let me see if I can stop the share and start it again, where I can very quickly show you a page from the article so you get an idea of what this. So this is what the furry robot looked like. And the participants were actually asked to hold the robot like this. And so it almost would feel, I would think, as though you're holding like a cat or a dog or something. I mean, it's a robot, but it would give you the illusion of holding something like that. Okay, let me stop that share and go back to the presentation. Okay. So while they're holding this furry robot, they watch video clips. And so first it's like a black screen or a blank screen, and then they watch a really boring video of a snail crossing a plank. In fact, they said that to find that video, they Googled most boring video clip or something like that. And then again, the black screen, and then a scary video. And the scary video is a clip from the movie The Shining. So if you've ever seen that movie, it's a scary movie. And then they completed a survey, and the survey asked them about their own emotions, the furry robot's emotions, and some manipulation checks also. So next, what happened? Well, am I stuck? Oh, there we go. Whoops, went too fast. So that's the method. So the big independent variable that they had was the breathing, or because the robot's not really breathing, but this furry robot, how much its chest was expanding and deflating, giving the sense that the robot was breathing. So a third of the people, they were in the no breathing condition. And as they're watching the video clips and holding the robot's not moving at all. In the stable breathing condition, about a third of the participants are in the stable breathing condition, the robot's breathing goes, the robot's chest expands and decreases at a rate that would be of someone who was calm and having stable, calm breathing. And the breathing stays that way through all of the video clips, through the blank screens, through the boring clip, through the shining, through the scary clip. But a third of the participants are in the accelerated breathing group. And in this accelerated breathing condition, the robot begins with the breathing. Remember, the robot's not really breathing, but the expansion of it being very calm to the stable breathing during the black screens, during the boring video clip. But then when the scary video clip goes, then the breathing gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And it mimics someone hyperventilating, someone breathing really, really fast because they're scared. Okay. So the dependent variables, the main one is that they're looking at the participant's heart rate before and after that scary video clip was shown. Okay. And they want to see how much it changes. They also asked a bunch of questions, so they look at the responses to questions about the robot's emotions: angry, sad, happy, afraid, surprised, bored, neutral, and the participants' mood or emotions, same thing. And the results were really interesting and answered their two questions. So remember, the first question was, can humans detect and recognize fear by touching a robot displaying chest movements that simulate hyperventilation? And sure enough, participants rated the robot as more afraid in the accelerated condition than in the stable breathing condition or the no breathing condition. And those two conditions did not differ from one another. So when a person is holding a robot whose chest area expands and deflates, and it stays calm, and then it gets faster and faster and faster, and then goes back to calm, people will think or attribute the robot to being afraid, to having this emotion of fear, even though clearly the robot can't be afraid. Then the second question of the paper was, can touching a hyperventilating robot increase a human's, their own physiological arousal? And sure enough, it did. So the heart rates of the participants in the accelerated condition increased much more from the start to the end of the scary video than the heart rates of the participants in the other two conditions. Now, interestingly enough, the heart rates of those in the no breathing condition, so I would consider that like the control group, increased a little bit from the start to the end of the scary video. So it seems as though just watching the scary video would increase someone's heart rate a little bit. Those that were holding a calm, so to speak, robot, their heart rate did not increase at all. And those holding a robot that was afraid, their heart rate increased a lot. So there's some interesting findings here. So in conclusion, participants did detect and recognize fear by touching a robot displaying chest movements simulating hyperventilation. And sure enough, touching a hyperventilating robot did indeed increase participants' own physical arousal. And there's some evidence that suggests that maybe touching the calm one prevented the person from having their arousal increase. However, one of the limitations in the study is that they did not measure heart rate continually. So it's They just did it before and after the scary movie. So we're not 100% sure if the stable breathing robot helped the participants to regulate their fear. If they had measured it continually, we would know that. And so that's probably something that needs to be done in the future. A big limitation of the study was the only measure that they used for arousal was heart rate. That's kind of odd. I'm surprised they didn't use some other physiological measures also. To rely solely on one is unfortunate. They did ask people what their emotion was, but again, they asked them at the very end after they were like where time had gone by from the time they were seeing the scary movie to like looking at a black screen again. And so like they didn't find any differences there, but probably because the people's emotions had already shifted. So another limitation was to generalizability anyway, is the sample that they used. They were all healthy, college-aged people. And so what would happen, you know, holding a robot, college-age people holding a robot that looks like a cat or a dog, like a furry robot, might be different for college age who grew up like with, you know, you guys are talking about AI and you grew up with computers, you probably had one in your hands by the time you were 6 months old, versus like my age people, even older than me who are in nursing homes. Would they find holding a hyperventilating furry object more arousing? How about younger kids? What would be the effect? I was kind of thinking when I was reading this article about how amusement parks might want to use this, where somehow as you go through something, you can make it even more scary if you're having them hold a robot that seems to be breathing more and more scary. And of course, from a therapeutic point of view, if that stable one works out, if you can have someone hold something that's breathes in a stable way, could that potentially calm someone down who's going through some kind of a medical procedure or something like that? Would it be different with a non-college student? Also, these students were all healthy. Would it be different with someone who suffers from anxiety issues, that kind of thing? And they only focused on fear. What about, you know, all the other emotions that exist? Would touching a furry robot that seems excited make someone more excited? Or, you know, what, or if they seem sad, I don't know how you would do sad, but sad, could it make someone feel more sad? Can we have basically emotion contagion from something that's not human? So those were some of the limitations, future research ideas. And 4 of you read this article and left a discussion question for it. And I thought the discussion questions were really good. Why does physical touch cause both positive and negative reactions depending on the circumstances? I'm so excited to see what you guys say about this. Where I am right now, I'm helping out with my grandson who's 7 months old because my son-in-law just had surgery, and it is amazing how quickly he got off of the pain meds. And when I was talking with his sister, who's a doctor, she was saying how with random controlled trials, they told people, you know, you should be out of pain in 2 days. And with the same operation, other people were told you'll be off pain medication in about 2 weeks. And other people said most people are on pain meds for about a month. And the people in those conditions said that they needed the pain meds as long as they were told that they would. So she was saying how much pain is there's, yes, it's real and there's a physical component, but your expectations of it and can really affect what you feel. So what how about this? Are positive and negative reactions, like whether is the circumstance, can that have a big effect on this too? So, and how can we differentiate when touch would be helpful, when it would be harmful? How much influence do social norms and environmental backgrounds, again, this expectation idea, have on touch? psychophysiological responses to fear? Very interesting question. I'm dying to see what you guys think the answer to this would be. And how might the findings about accelerated breathing be contagious through touch apply to real life situations, such as comforting a scared child or being around anxious people? Could we give this to an anxious person and see if it would calm them down? Could we give it to people, older people and younger people, as they're going through scary situations to help them calm them down? Or like I was saying, in an amusement park where you're trying to get scared, or a horror movie, does the movie theater put, little furry animals that you touch during the movie to make it even more scary? How could this research on robots and physiological arousal be used in therapy, virtual reality, or other technologies to influence human emotions safely? Such a great question. I'm dying to see where you guys go with this. And do you think people could unconsciously pick up emotions from physical signals like breathing without even realizing it? And I find that fascinating. My guess is, yes, they absolutely do, that they're aroused, and they wouldn't be able to tell you, well, I had more arousal because I was touching this robot that was breathing faster. How might this affect the way we react to others in stressful or emotional situations? Absolutely. The research on emotion contagion really says, like, if I'm anxious and I'm in a room with people who are also anxious, I'm going to become more anxious. If I'm anxious and I get into a room and everyone's calm, I might calm down or I might make them more anxious, but we kind of share our emotions. So really interested to see where you guys go with this week. And of course, it's spring break, so you don't have to do it now. This discussion was supposed to close on Monday night at 11:59, March 23rd. But because I'm posting this late, I'm going to give us until Wednesday, March 25th at 11:59 to finish this discussion. Which means that on Wednesday, March 25th, you're going to have two groups of discussions going on, this week's week 9 and week 10. So anyway, I hope you, if you're watching this after your spring break is over, I hope you had a good spring break. If not, I hope you continue to have a good spring break, and I look forward to the discussion this week. Thank you. Bye.